What is the role of trust in the success of your offshore team? Hi, I'm Bryan, and I'm the host of the Philippine Business Playbook podcast and also the CEO of Tache. Today, we're going to talk about trust. Everyone knows about technology and how it connects teams, but how can trust really level up your team? How does it make your team function better, more efficiently, and drive them to success for your company? So why is trust important? Trust is really a way to show your team that you think you believe in them, that you think that they're working at a high level, and I think it sets a bar for them for their success. I know that when I started my business in the Philippines back in 2012, I quickly learned that I'm not going to be there all the time to look over the shoulders, to really point them in the right direction at all times, especially once you start having overnight shifts and daylight shift, so that they're kind of working 24 hours a day, and you really then can't be micromanaging all of their actions. So you really need to trust the team. And I was forced into it because I came from an engineering background where I would just walk across the hall and my junior engineer would be there and I'd be pointing things out and making sure he's doing things. And if it was a really difficult project or something that I was a little bit concerned about, I'd be standing there behind him for a half hour while he's doing his work. But with the team in the Philippines, you can't do that. And so how do you have the trust to make them succeed, and how do you put processes in place to make that a successful relationship? Well, first of all, you really want to be hiring great people, right? But once you've done that, you've got a great team. Now you got to take the next step. And so why is trust so important? Well, it allows you then to work on your own stuff while they're doing their stuff so that you can get the efficiency that you want out of them. So that's first and foremost. But if the team knows that they trust you, then they're going to be working harder. They're going to be able to be more confident to tell you when they see issues. They're going to be more confident in the work that they're doing. They're going to point out opportunities for their improvement on the work. These things all happen because of trust. If they think that you don't trust them, they're going to be really afraid to act on their own, to take things to the next level. And especially if you have a team that maybe you're only talking to once or twice a day, they need to be able to act on their own, make decisions, and drive the project forward, even when there is a little bit of ambiguity on how things are done. I know that when I'm working with a team and there's a time when they might feel like, boy, I don't know if we're doing the right thing, I want them to feel like that I trust them, that I trust that they're going to make the right decision. And one thing I've learned is that there's never anything that's so bad that it's going to, take the company under. I want them to drive themselves, to sometimes make mistakes. The best teacher is mistakes. There's learning about it, there's experiencing it, and then there's making mistakes. Making mistakes is the best teacher. And so I'm always telling people, I want you to push yourself and make mistakes, and then we'll correct them and we'll learn from it and we'll move forward. But you want the team to feel like they can make mistakes and they can move forward. And when they feel like you trust them, that's where they're going to be able to do that. Additionally, if they think that you trust them, then they're going to be coming to you with ideas. They're not going to be afraid to suggest things that maybe will make things better. Maybe they're bringing in experiences from a past job, or maybe because they're in the weeds and working with the software and working with the clients and looking at the numbers, they're going to have ideas that maybe you don't recognize right away. And so if you're getting that additional knowledge from your employees, you're in a better situation. So if they feel like they trust you, they're going to be more confident in giving their ideas to you. Additionally, they're going to then also point out when you make mistakes. And that's really a level up in the trust. if they feel like you're going to be understanding of where they're coming from and everyone's working together as a team, they're going to point out your mistakes. And I always tell my team, even though I'm driving us forward and I'm making a lot of decisions, I'm going to make mistakes too. And the sooner we can figure out where my mistakes are and adjust for them, the better off we are. So we want to have a communication that goes both ways. We want to have them tell us when they make mistakes so that we can correct that. And I want them to tell me when I make mistakes so we can correct them. And all that starts from trusting each other. What are some of the ways that you can create trust with your team? One of the most important ways is authentic communication. You're going to want to make sure that you're always communicating with your team in an authentic way, that you're being truthful, honest, that you're providing clear feedback that's also, fair, that you're communicating in a way that's also empathetic of their feelings and the way the work that they're doing. You also want to be very consistent in your actions. So if you have meetings, for example, you want to make sure that you're on time, especially if you expect them to be on time. So if they feel like there's a trusting relationship between you and the team, that's going to build trust with the team. If you say you're going to start on time, you always start on time. If you're going to follow an agenda, you always follow an agenda. And I think that consistency is really important, building trust with the team, that they know these are the way things are going to happen, and we're going to follow that process, and that's the way we're going to do things all the time. And they know that it's clear on how your actions are going to be. Another thing is empowerment and autonomy. So if you empower your team to make decisions, to make mistakes even, then they're going to feel like you trust them. And so empowering your team is really important in the mindset that the team has in their work that they're doing with you. I at times have had team members that are doing things or suggesting things that maybe I'm not 100% on board with. And I know that there are a lot of business owners that will panic in those situations, and they're going to just make the employee do things the way they want things done. And sometimes you have to do that. But if there's opportunities when you might want to do things a certain way and the client or the employee wants to do things another way, and if you feel like, well, you know what, it's a 50-50 shot and I don't really know, I oftentimes will let the employee do it the way that they want to do it, even if I think that it might be wrong. And sometimes they're right, and great, I learned from that. But sometimes even if they're wrong, it's a learning experience, and they're able then to adjust from that. But having made the decision themselves, of knowing that you empowered them to make those decisions, really will build trust. And so empowering your employees to make their own decisions and sometimes their own mistakes is a huge way to build trust with your team. Another thing with overseas team is really cultural appreciation. So especially in the Philippines, there's going to be certain cultural differences with regard to families and holiday and the way they interact with their other employees and the kind of the nature of employment in the Philippines. And that's going to be true for any country that you're working with. There's just different countries have different traditions and cultures and everything. As an employer of a team that's working overseas, it's important that you understand that. And so if an employee sees that you are understanding of their culture and the way things operate in that country, and you're empathetic of that situation, that's going to build trust with your team as well, because they feel like you understand them as human beings. And so understanding the culture of the team you're working with is a great way to build trust with your team. One of the most important ways to build trust with your team is to build your team with an agency that's going to do things the right way. You want to make sure that they're hiring people that are going to be real employees, that they're going to have health insurance, that they're going to have holiday pay, that they're going to have all of the social safety net requirements that the Philippines government requires of employees. If you're working with contractors or gig workers or freelancers, you're starting at a position that's unequal. You're starting at a position where they realize that they're not long-term employees. Even if you want to have a long-term relationship with them, you're starting at an unequal relationship. You're not treating them like real employees. And so how could they feel like they're a real employee with you? And that's going to have a barrier to trust for your company. So I always say that you want to have a real relationship with your employees. So remember that aligning and connecting with the right partner is going to be a huge part in building trust with your team. Well, I hope that you've learned a lot from this video. And if you got any questions, comment below. We want to really, have a conversation with you. And please like and subscribe to the video. There's going to be a lot more great content coming forward, and we want to make sure that you hear all of that. Until next time, I'm Bryan, and this is the Philippine Business Playbook podcast. Thank you.